Excellencies, my dear sisters and brothers, we are celebrating the 10th African Border Day in the context of the Africa Union theme of the year, Silencing the Guns, Creating Conducive Conditions for Africans' Development. In devoting the 2020 to the Silencing the Guns initiative, we are recommitting and rededicating ourselves to establishing mechanisms for the peaceful resolution of conflict in line with our aspirations of attaining a conflict-free Africa. There is no better place to realize the goals of Silencing the Guns initiative than in the African borderlands, remote area characterized by conflict and a variety of socio-economic challenges. I hope this Border Day sheds light on the need to work together at all levels in the borderlands in order to support their development and promote peace and tolerance in these areas. We are also celebrating the Border Day amidst the new coronavirus COVID-19 outbreak. The impact of COVID-19 places the issue of governance of African borders at the heart of the responses to the pandemic. The African Union has taken up the challenges by deciding early to develop and implement a common African strategy aimed, on the one hand, at preventing serious illness and deaths due to infection by COVID-19 among its member states, and on the other hand, to minimize social disruption and the economic consequences of the health crisis. Through its prompt reaction, the African Union Commission intends to facilitate the coordination of the efforts of member states, African Union agencies, organizations, and other partners to ensure synergy and minimize overlaps. It also intends to promote the practice of evidence-based public health for the surveillance, prevention, diagnosis, treatment, and control of COVID-19. As part of the African Union's coordinated response to the COVID-19 pandemic, the Peace and Security Department of the African Union Commission has, through the African Union Border Programme, undertaken, with the support of the German cooperation GIZ, an initiative aimed at limiting the spread of the impact of COVID-19 in Africa through cross-border cooperation and the stabilization of borders areas. In a coordinated approach, the African Union Commission, certain RECs and several member states are actively engaged in, namely the coordinated processing and dissemination of information related to the strategies and the containment measures of the diseases, cooperation and coordination between the national authorities in charge of border management on monitoring the situation at their common borders, implementation of measures such as the development and dissemination of information and communication materials at border crossing points, tools allowing safe practices and the basic functioning of public life in border regions. Facilitation of cross-border cooperation between local authorities located in border areas and raising awareness among border communities, training border health structures, personnel, and providing protection and hygiene equipment. These short-term measures, however beneficial they may be, should not blind us from the fact that we are facing a challenge, finding lasting solutions to the joint management of epidemics and pandemic in borderland and cross-border spaces. It is a question of human security, the human security of millions of people crossing border each day in continuous waves, and the human security of border communities. I wish to invite you on the 10th African Border Day to reflect the sustainable strategy mechanisms and operational systems for the cross-border management of public health issue in Africa. I appeal to our member states, to the regional economic communities and all Africans to join forces to establish strong and dynamic cross-border cooperation in our continent that can withstand any challenge. We already have a framework to build this cooperation, to which I invite you to join. This is the Africa Union Border Programme, which from an organizational and operational point of view lends itself to the institutionalization of cross-border cooperation at continental, regional, and national levels. With the framework of this program initiative and concrete actions might also be taken relating to the joint management of health crisis situation, whether human or animal. I take this opportunity to reiterate my request to the member states which have not yet done so to sign, ratify, and domesticate the Africa Union Convention on Cooperation Cross-Border, Niamey Convention. I would also like to highlight the availability of another tool to assist member states, the Africa Union Strategy for Better Integrated Border Governance that was adopted in February 2020 by the Africa Union decision-making bodies. It contains relevant guidelines and recommendations to promote cross-border cooperation across the continent. Let us draw our inspiration from it. Ladies and gentlemen, this June 7, 2020, we are celebrating the 10th edition of the Africa Border Day in the context of the outbreak of coronavirus disease pandemic. We are indeed observing with regret the continuous progression of infection, which unfortunately can easily cross borders if we do not take the appropriate measures. I hope that this 10th edition of the African Border Day will be celebrated in the different regions of the continent in strict compliance with the measures taken by the member state and the recommendations issued by the health authorities. Let us remember, we are stronger together. I wish you excellent African Border Day celebration. Thank you.